What is happening, Magnus? Let's get it. Check this out. See what the guy has to say about this. Get over to the Critical Drinker and subscribe. Tell him Tyrone Magnus sent you.
Well, colour me shocked. I mean, who could have predicted that a spin-off TV show about a periphery character from a moderately successful Batman movie would turn out to be an extremely well-written, brilliantly acted, competently directed, and generally excellent crime drama with a complex and sympathetic protagonist, and possibly one of the best comic book adaptations we've had in years? Not me, that's for sure. The hype around the Penguin was basically non-existent as far as I was concerned, because I was about as enthusiastic for this show as I was for telling my AA sponsor that I'd fallen off the wagon for the third time today. And it was only through the combined recommendations of a few people whose opinions I actually respect that I finally sat down to watch the first episodes. And damn, I've got to admit, they pulled a blinder with this one. Unapologetically violent, gritty, complex, hard-hitting and mature, The Penguin strikes exactly the tone I'd expect from a show like this. Unlike the MCU, whose laughable attempts at producing more grounded and realistic TV content ended up more like Tulsa King mixed with the Teletubbies, The Penguin actually feels like a show written by and for adults, starring actors who can actually act, and a script that neatly establishes its world and characters within a single episode. The show picks up right after the events of The Batman, with Gotham recovering from the flood that destroyed half the city, and the criminal underworld reeling from the death of Carmine Falcone. With his son Alberto struggling to fill his dad's shoes and his empire faltering, it seems like a power vacuum is developing in Gotham. And sooner or later, someone's going to have to fill it. Enter Oswald Cobb, his former right-hand man who now has aspirations to move up in the world. And when he gets into a heated confrontation with Alberto one night, well, let's just say it doesn't end well. It's not long before he runs into a local gang member trying to steal his car.
Part is shocking when you first see it.
Oswald sees something of himself in the kid and decides to put him to work. Heartwarming stuff indeed, but things soon go south when Oswald gets word that the Falcone family are moving their drug operations out of Gotham, basically cutting his business off at the knees. Even worse, Alberto's batshit crazy sister Sophia's been released from Arkham Asylum and clearly suspects that Oswald knows something about her brother's disappearance.
And she's crazy.
But what to do? Well, rather than skip town, Oswald decides to stand and fight, working hard to play his enemies off against each other and bring down the Falcone Empire from the inside so that he can eventually take over himself. And as we soon find out, he's willing to go to some pretty fucking extreme lengths to get what he wants. As a character, the Penguin always felt like a weird, out-of-place addition in the Batman movie, awkwardly inserted into a narrative that didn't really need him, and abandoned when the script decided it was done with him. The decision to smother Colin Farrell in enough latex to supply a dozen of P. Diddy's house parties just to make him look like a fat, ugly, middle-aged man, instead of hiring an actual fat, ugly, middle-aged actor, was another bizarre...
I want to see a movie with the Penguin and Scott Adkins' character from John Wick 4. All in this. That's what. Yeah, he was in that, right? Yeah. I want to. That's what I want to see. I want to see both of them together.
A creative choice that felt like it was done just to get another big name on boards. So, like I said before, I wasn't exactly pumped.
Call it the fat guys. Just be him, those two, and Scott Adkins will be the muscle of the crew. And the Penguin will be the brains, and their banter back and forth, and them dealing with other criminal organizations. That would be great.
To watch an entire TV show based around this guy. After all, we've had plenty of other Batman spin-off shows over the years that have ranged from pointless to obscure to downright abusive.
It will be. When it fits a woman.
And that's what this felt like. Just another spin-off show with no clear reason for
She left and never came back.
Particularly wanted or asked for. But the thing that the Penguin...
Way back then, when that series was just pure garbage. They think about that. That came out when? And they're still making stuff like this?
And does so well and so efficiently is to get you invested in its protagonist literally by the end of its first scene. A short conversation with the new head of the...
Is the new episode out today? I gotta watch it. This was great. If you haven't seen my review, make sure you watch it. This was great.
Our Clone Empire really tells you everything you need to know about what drives Oswald. He's a man born into a hard and cruel world who was forced to become hard and cruel himself to survive, but there's also something else in him that sets him apart from his peers. He aspires to become something better, even if he's forced to become something worse in order to get there. He's a man handicapped by crippling disability who clearly didn't start
Look like
with
it
any
stink, don't
advantages
it?
in life, but through ruthless cunning, careful planning, and sheer balls-out bravery, he's clawed out a place for himself in the world. And beneath it all, he's still very much a human being, broken and damaged by a tough life, and the little glimpses of vulnerability and humanity that we see are just enough to make us empathise with him. As he mentions at one point, he's learned how to make himself small so that his bosses can feel big around him, careful never to rise too far or say too much in case he paints a target on his back. And big props to Colin Farrell, who turns in what might be one of the best performances of his career. It would have been easy for an actor to look kind of laughable under all those prosthetics, but the strength of Farrell's performance shines through so that you kind of forget he's even wearing makeup after a while.
You do.
And that's not to put down the rest of the cast either.
It looks
who
real.
Deliver brilliant performances. Clancy Brown is always dependable as a menacing villain, but the real standout is Kristen Milioti as Sophia, who's highly intelligent, brutal, and always balanced right on the edge of madness. You really feel like she could do anything at any moment. She's a perfect foil for someone like Oswald, and it's going to be great fun watching them spar with each other.
Yeah, because she's more unhinged than him. That's funny. She's crazier than him. As she feels dangerous.
Control of the city. In terms of plot and pacing, if you're a fan,
But she doesn't take the spotlight from him. You know what I'm saying? Like they've been doing it. She doesn't take the spotlight from him. Like, this is his show. You know what I'm saying?
Godfather movies or shows like The Sopranos, then you'll be pretty familiar with the story beats at work here. It's your typical organised crime drama for the most part. Lots of plotting and scheming, alliances.
That's what I was telling people. I was like, it's a mob show. Like, it's like, you think the Sopranos writers worked on it or something. Like, it's a mob show. It's not a superhero, supervillain show. It's a mob show.
Crosses, family loyalties, and bitter feuds, but it's all handled pretty competently, and for the most part, I didn't feel like events or decisions were forced for the sake of moving the plot along. Yeah, you could probably argue that Oswald choosing to spare Victor's life was a bit contrived, when it would leave him dangerously exposed, and he almost certainly has other men that he can trust at his disposal, but mostly I'd put that down to his more sentimental side getting the better of him. And in some ways it kind of makes sense for him to get someone outside the family who's completely insulated from all this stuff. In terms of the cinematography, one of the things I really appreciated about the Batman movie was the way it reverted back to the gritty, dilapidated Gotham City that fans of the comics knew so well. Compared to the bland, sterile version that we got in the Dark Knight trilogy and whatever the fuck Zack Snyder was trying to do, the Batman felt like just the right balance between grounded realism and the industrial gothic look of the comics, and that aesthetic gets carried over perfectly well here. It's obviously still based on New York, but run down, neglected, stricken by crime and corruption and decay. So basically just actual New York then. We're only one episode in so far, so it's a bit too early to say for sure, but for the most part, I think I'm pretty impressed with what they've managed to do with the Penguin. If I had to compare it to something else, I'd say it feels like the Netflix Daredevil series, something that used its parent movies as a jumping off point to branch off into its own self-contained narrative that's way more violent and mature than anything the movies could ever hope to be. And if that was their aspiration for this show, then well, hats off to you, gentlemen. Mission accomplished. Let's just hope you don't drop the ball on this one, because you have my interest so far. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.
Good review there, Drinker. Good review. Yeah, so far, so good. Excellent episode. I loved it, and I was just like, okay, let's do this. That's what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? Give the fans what they want. Post comments down below. Let me know what you all thought if you enjoyed my reaction. Hit the like button, subscribe, and share. 10 million subscribers. Woo!